If winning a fully funded master's or PhD scholarship is your goal for this year, then this should be the component of what you should have as an academic CV. For every graduate school program you would apply for, whether in the US, whether in the UK, Canada, parts of Europe or Australia, you will be required to submit alongside your application an academic CV. Also, when you're sending out a cold mail to fish for positions from principal investigators, professors, supervisors from one university or the other, again, you will be required to attach your academic CV to your mails. Now, most persons confuse the academic CV to be the same thing as a work CV, and so they jam what is supposed to be in a work CV into what is supposed to be an academic CV. In this video, I will be teaching you, I will be showing you the components of what should constitute an ideal academic CV that has helped mentees from my graduate school group to win several fully funded masters and PhD scholarship around the world. Now, an academic CV, like the name applies, should only detail your academics. It has no business with your personal information or your unrelated work experiences or your skills that are not related to what you are applying for. For example, I have found CVs, student CV, that go ahead to list such things like date of birth, gender, number of children, marital status, and all of that. All of those information, it's not required in an academic CV. I've also found people who list work experiences they had in the bank when they are graduates of physics, or work experiences they had in the farm as graduates of economics, and work experiences they had maybe in one government institution that is not related to what they exactly studied for their undergraduate. Now, all of those things shows that you do not understand what should constitute an academic CV. Now, also, academic CV differs with countries. Some countries in Europe require some certain kind of academic CV. For example, the academic CV for the DA application or the DA program and some parts of Germany and Russia requires that the academic CV has a passport. But in the US, in Canada, in the UK, the academic CV should not have a passport. And so, what exactly constitutes a very ideal academic CV? It's that academic CV or that document or that draft that has 10 parts, 10 components. These 10 components are: 1, personal information. Now, we'll talk about this in details, because when we mention personal information, persons go to put so many things that should not constitute personal information in an academic CV. 2, the second part of an academic CV, it's education. The third part is your research interest. Number 4 is your research experiences. I've mentioned that to present as a very strong candidate, you need to have and detail your research experience in your academic CV. Now, number 5 is your teaching / professional experiences. Number 6 is publications and scholarship. Number 7 is skills and abilities. Of course, not just random skills, but related skills. And number 8, this is repeated, that should not be. Number 8 should be awards, professional affiliation, and number 10, number 9 is community services and volunteering experiences. And of course, number 10 should be referees, references, persons who would send in letters of recommendation should it be requested. So these are the somewhat compulsory part of an academic CV. I will take you through what each part should be, one step at a time. using a typical example of an academic CV. Let's go there. Okay, so here is a typical academic CV, and it is a model, a template I have used for several of my young mentees, most of them in the US, some of them in Canada, some of them in the UK, and some of them in Australia. We've always used this template, and it has been the catalyst, the driving force for some of the fully funded scholarship my mentees have won around the world. Now, I want to take you through each part of it. The first part, like I mentioned, is your personal information. Now, note the design of the CV. First, there is no space for writing curriculum vitae on the CV. You don't need to have that. Anybody submitting document to knows that it is an academic CV, so you don't need to add or the title academic CV again. So your CV opens with your personal information. It opens with the details of your personal information. Now, what constitutes your personal information? Your name is the first part of your personal information. Now, note that your name here is not written from the surname. It's written from your own name to your surname. Now, following your name just immediately is the BS degree, the highest degree you have. So if you have an MSc, you will put it here. The MSc in what and what you have them, you would put them here. So you have an MSc and a BSc or a B Engine, you would put the MSc first. You put your latest degree. And for this person, this is his latest degree. It has a bachelor's of physics and a bachelor's of mechanical engineering and an HND of mechanical engineering. So if this person had a master's, you would also put that master's there. Now, following your highest degree would be what you are interested in or what you're doing. Okay, this person is a graduate photonics scientist. He's a theoretical physics enthusiast. Is a graduate research assistant, and is a data analyst. And so this basically gives us a summary, an overview of what you are interested in, the branch of physics you're interested in, what you are trying to look for, what you're doing currently, and what other skills you have. That's what this is. And so say you are a graduate of political sciences, you may write somewhere here a graduate diplomat, somebody interested in war and terrorism studies. You will put that there. You have worked as a graduate research assistant before, you put it there. A particular skill you have that is applicable and useful for this particular body of learning, you also need to put that there. Now, following that would be your email, your mobile phone number. Of course, you need to put your country code, and it's very important that you put your LinkedIn link. Very important. So once you do these four things, it's what constitutes your personal information on an academic CV. Now, following personal information, like I shared earlier, you would have your education. Now, your education follows a reverse chronological order. That is the latest degree, the latest qualification you have to the later qualification. And so for this person, the latest qualification is the one that was awarded in October 2024, and that is what is on the CV. And now, for each of the degree you're listing, you're going to list the type of degree and in what course of study, the year it was awarded, the institution that awarded it, and the address of that institution, and your CGPA, and of course your undergraduate thesis should also be on that CV. That your supervisor, especially if your supervisor is going to be one of those that will be sending in a letter of recommendation, or your supervisor is a renowned, it has a whole lot of is influential in this particular body of learning. Say your supervisor is quite influential in terms of research in quantum sciences and quantum physics. Like for this person, you need to list your supervisor. That if you had any other degree, this is where you list them, just the same way the title of the degree, the course of study, the year, the month and year it was awarded, the institution that awarded it, and the address of that institution, and the CGPA. Now, following that very closely would be your research interest. Now, I've mentioned before in subsequent videos that you cannot be seeking for a master's or a PhD program if you do not have a research interest. A research interest is that specific subdivision of whatsoever you studied that you are interested in. It must be interwoven. So you list about 5 of them that are very interconnected, very interwoven. Not that you are interested in molecular biology, the same you are interested in computational biology, the same you are interested in tissues biology. Those areas are not connected. They are so different, they are so unconnected. Your research interest should be connected, should be interwoven. So for this person, his research interest is in nanophotonics and optoelectronics, into condensed matter physics, into quantum materials engineering, into theoretical solid state physics and electronics, and data science or physics application. These areas are very, very interconnected. Of course, nanophotonics is a subdivision of condensed matter physics, and condensed matter physics there is quantum materials, and he is not interested in the experimental part. He's interested in the theoretical part. Of course, solid state physics and condensed matter physics are highly related, and so this CV is specifically written, and it has a good research interest. Following that carefully is your research experiences. Now, your research experiences begins with the title you held as in that particular research. Say you were a research assistant or a research associate. This is where you put it down, the duration, and in what place did you have this? Who was your supervisor or lead scientist or lead researcher or principal investigator in that particular group you had that research experience? And so you're going to list the things you did, and you're going to list them in action verbs and in past tense. I investigated OD, 1D, 2D, nanocrystals, metamaterials, and all of that. Notice that all of the things written here are in action verbs: explored, investigated, developed, collaborated, and they are in past tense. And so that is how you list your research experience. And everybody gets to put a research experience in an academic CV for master's or PhD. And following that carefully is your teaching experience. Teaching experience would be the experiences you have in a post-secondary, or sorry, in a post-primary institution. So if you have taught in a secondary school, in a high school, in a research lab, in any post-primary sector, this is where you list those experiences. Teaching experiences. This is also where you could put in your professional experiences if you have had them in an institution that relates to what you studied. Following that quickly, it's publication and scholarship. Now, in publication and scholarship, there are about three parts or three things you list there. One, you list your dissertations, your thesis. This is where you list them. How do you get to list the dissertation and thesis? You write the title of whatever the thesis was, and you tell us that it is an unpublished research work submitted to the Department of XYZ in whatever university and in whatever country or state. That is what constitutes your thesis or your thesis report. And following your thesis report quickly would be your published peer review articles if you have them. And of course, if you're applying for a PhD program, you should have a number of peer review programs. And if you have graduated in the last 5 years, you should also have some very plenty peer review articles. Now, which one do you list? You list the ones that you are the first author, or you are the corresponding author. This is the part you list. And you also list the ones that is related to what you're applying for. And I need to mention to you that you would have to edit the CV for every application you are making. Yes, because you may have gotten a wide range of experiences, a vast range of experiences. You may have written several papers that are in different areas. You only list the papers that are connected to what you are applying for, or to the professor you're sending that CV too. You don't begin to list papers you wrote in geophysics in this kind of paper, for example. And these are, so your publications of your peer review articles, you may have up to 20 of them, even up to 50, but you don't list all of them on your CV. You only list the ones that are related to the particular course you are applying for, or the professor that is receiving the CV. For example, for this person, he is applying for a nanophotonics position in a physics lab, and of his different publications, notice the one he's adding here. He's adding the ones that are on nanophotonics and optoelectronics only. And don't forget that the papers that are worth the while are those papers you are either the first author or the corresponding author. And of course, how do you put the published papers on your CV? You put it as it could be cited on with APA citation style. This is the reference of this paper, so just copy the reference as it will be referenced in the APA referencing style and put here. About 5 to 6 is enough for the number of papers you're going to add to the CV. You don't need to put all the papers. Remember, just put only the related one. The next item on the publication and scholarship part of your CV, it's your conference papers and conference presentation. And so if you've had conference papers and conference presentation, that is the next thing to put. And basically you list the topic of the conference presentation you had, where you had it, and in what particular conference. And of course, if you have textbook or books contribution, this is also where you list them. So 4 items you have in the publication and scholarship part of the CV are your dissertations, your peer review articles. Please put the one that have been published, not the one that is awaiting publication. Put the one that has been published, that has the reference already in place. And of course, you need to put the journal in which it was published. So just basically you copy out its reference, the reference of that paper, and put on your CV. Don't forget that you need to put the DOI, digital object identifier, on every paper you put there, so that a professor who's checking you out can just click on the DOI and get to the paper. And you put your conference presentation if you have any, and your book contribution or book publication that has an ISBN. You also list that there. The next component of the CV, academic CV, is applicable skills and abilities. It is a very important part. In fact, this is the part most PIs or most professors would basically race to see what competencies and what abilities you've garnered. And so what skills do you list here? There are skills that defines graduate school, and these skills are laboratory skills or skills that are related to whatever you studied. For example, if you studied political sciences, since you don't have a lab, the skills that will be tangible is your ability to write and speak, and your ability to hold an argumentative conversation or write an argumentative essay in a very convincing one, your ability to present a thesis. So, but for STEM people or people in STEM, of course, your first applicable skill would be the skills with the tools that are related to the course you studied. For example, for this person in physics, of course, a very good skill is the ability to use the X-ray diffraction, and ability to do characterization, ability to use the spectrophotometer, and all of those tools that can be used to characterize materials in the lab. The next tool or the next abilities you must list is your ability with statistical tools or computational tools. Of course, in every master's or PhD program, you must do some level of statistics. And so the professor or the department that is trying to take you in want to be sure that you have these skills. You can use Excel, you can use Python, you can use R, you could use SPSS, and all the different packages available for handling statistics and statistical analysis. And of course, if you are in STEM and you're looking for a master's or a PhD in data sciences or informatics or mathematical modeling, you would need to list a skill in Python, R, MATLAB, and those computational tools that are that can do machine learning and artificial intelligence. Of course, you need to put your ability to write and publish papers, and so you need to explain that you have excellent scientific research ability with knowledge of APM, representative style. You can conduct a review of literature. You know how to use Google Scholar. You know how to use Semantic Scholar. You know how to use AI tools for academic research. All of that are part of research and publication skills that must be on your CV. The next part is, of course, other skills. Other skills would include people skills, team building, supervision, decision making, etc. The next part of your CV, academic CV, is the award. So if you've had awards, you were the best graduating student in your year, you were the best examiner, you were the best student in a particular course of study. This is where you list them, the awards you have won, maybe from your high school till now. Of course, they get to add to your evaluation in the course of applying or giving you a position for a master's or a PhD program. The next part of that CV would be your professional affiliation. Yes, especially if you have some internationally recognized affiliation. For example, you belong to the American Society of Physicists, you belong to the American Chemical Society, you belong to the American Economic Society, you belong to the European Society of Applied Physicists. All of those are influential and good affiliation. Even affiliations in your country that are recognized, don't fail to put that. It shows that you are also contributing to developing and deepening skills in your particular area of study. The next very important part of any academic CV is the volunteering experiences and community services and leadership. Now, most persons neglect this part. Unknown to them, this part is part of what is looked at in the total evaluation of a master's or a PhD student. Now, your volunteering experiences include anything you have done for free, anything you did without payment. It could include the things you do in an online community. It could include the things you did you do as a religious leader in your religious cycle, religious circle rather. It could include the things you did in your community, the things you did during COVID-19. Perhaps during COVID-19 you were among those who went from homes to homes to educate people on how to stay safe throughout the pandemic, or you are a member of Rotary Club or JCI, or in your country you have a national service, volunteering service like the NYC in Nigeria, like the youth service in Ghana, or the youth service in Cameroon. All of these contribute or constitute what is called volunteering experiences. And so you want to ensure that you have volunteering experiences or community service experiences and leadership. Of course, for most European universities, they want to see what you've done to humanity, what you've done for humanity besides academics. They want to know, besides having a BSc in XYZ, how have you used your ability, how have you used your skills to contribute to the development of humans and human society? Have you been a nation builder? Have you been a philanthropist? Have you been a contributor to community development, to nation building, to human capacity development, to human development in general? So that portion of your CV is always very important. So you tell the what you did, where you did it, the date span, and of course you explain a few things about what you did in bullet points just like this. The last part of your CV is the referees. Yes, the referees. The referees are persons who can attest to your abilities, who can attest to all the things you have written here, and who are easily reachable. Now you basically will write who they are, where they work, and the relationship you have with them. For example, for this person, this professor, the relationship is undergraduate advisor. So this explains all that makes a valuable, makes a strong academic CV. Again, a quick recap: it's your personal information in this order: education, research interest, research experience, teaching experiences. Don't forget that in your research experience you write with action verbs, and you write in past tense: performed, explored, played, engaged, designed, responsible for, and all of those words are what constitute how you would explain what you did as part of your research experiences. Don't forget that in your teaching experience, especially if you're looking for a graduate position that would come with a GTA. GTA means graduate teaching assistantship. You want to be considered for a GTA, you need to mention your ability to teach in a post-primary setting. So you list all of the places you have taught in post-primary institutions, and of course following your teaching experiences. And if you are a medical professional applying for a position in public health and the rest, you must mention your clinical experiences. So you wouldn't to mention teaching experience if you apply for public health as a medical professional. You would replace that part with clinical experiences. Yes, that's what distinguish between CV for non-medical professionals and CV for medical professionals. There must be a place where you're explaining your ability to hold clinical sections, and you've had prior experiences with holding clinical sessions. And following next is your publications and scholarship. Yes, don't forget that there are 4 parts to it: the citation, all the papers you've written that were not published, and your peer review published articles follows next. Your conference papers and your contribution to textbooks follows next. Now, before I run this to a close, there are some parts you need to understand in the CV. Note that in an academic CV, there should be no colors. It is not a rainbow or some artistic work that this one is in red, this one is in blue, this one is in orange, and this is in a violet color. The colors should be black. Now, make every section distinct so that at one view, the person who's viewing the CV can get to find exactly each part of the CV. And so you need to put a line like this, and you need to use an official font. Yes, not fonts that are not legible, or fonts that are fighting themselves, or fonts that the person has to strain his or her eyes before they can see it. Now ensure that your basic information enters the first page, because in most CVs, the first page is what counts. And so notice, that's why this order is very important. Your name or your personal information, your education, your research interest, and your research experience is in the first page. So if the person is not interested to see every other thing, this first page has effectively communicated everything about this CV and this person's ability. In the next few days, I'll be sharing tips for winning scholarship for masters and for PhD. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel. Don't forget to turn on the bell so that every time I put something new, every time I list something new, you are the first persons to be informed. go and draft your academic CV with this template.